34 people were arrested in Springfield at the end of June, the result of a week-long sweep in which local, state, and federal law enforcement worked together. In addition, several firearms on the street illegally were confiscated, as well as drug money. One of the high-profile arrests was Caevon Brimfield, a suspect in a Chicopee murder. I sat down with Hampden District Attorney Anthony Gulluni to learn more.
A few weeks leading up to that, a few weeks before that, knowing some specific intelligence around potential conflict between rival gangs or groups in areas in Springfield, the homicide in Chicopee a few weeks prior to that as well was really a prompting sort of factor here. It was really a brazen act of violence that was designed to be gang retaliation, although the victim, I want to make clear, had no associations with any gang and was very much an innocent victim. As well as historical trends in the city and in this region, which is not unlike other places like it, other medium-sized cities. In the summer, historically, there's an uptick in violence. So with all those factors, I decided to call around to folks in law enforcement, federal, state, and local. We ended up with the U.S. Attorney's Office, the Massachusetts State Police, and the Springfield Police Department, principally really getting together a surge in efforts for about a week in which we really focused on hotspots in the city of Springfield. We focused on known violent individuals in territories and homes that were known to be sort of clubhouses or areas of activity for gang members and gang activity. And a huge outpouring of resources from those organizations really led to this surge that ended up with 34 arrests and lots of visibility on top of that.
And tell us a little bit about the murder suspect in the murder of Charles White from Chicopee. He has a history, so he's certainly known to police, and he was arrested in New York, correct?
Yeah, it was a terrific effort by the Chicopee Police Department, the Massachusetts State Police Detective Unit assigned to my office, and assistant district attorneys in my office who really responded right away upon news of this murder on Saturday night into Sunday in Chicopee those few weeks ago. And very quickly, we put together 4 arrest warrants on charges of murder. The last person arrested was Caevon Brimfield, who was arrested in New York City by terrific efforts from the Marshal Service in that area and folks from this area collaborating to find him and take him into custody. But it was really a very brutal murder, senseless murder, as many of them are. And Mr. Brimfield does, in fact, have a history with law enforcement, does have a criminal record, and as I said before, was a person of interest in at least 2 other murders, one here in this jurisdiction and one in Atlanta, Georgia.
And many of the people that you arrested had outstanding warrants anyway. What were some of the charges that they were locked up on?
That was a part of our surge. We went back and looked at district court and superior court warrants. There was a number, I believe it was about a dozen of individuals arrested, had warrants outstanding, and we put together efforts really led by the state police and the Springfield Police Department to put teams together to go out and seek those folks on those warrants. So that was a piece of this effort to really make a very strong statement, I think, to the public first and foremost, that your tax dollars and your federal, state, and local governments are working very hard to keep you safe, and a statement to the criminal population and people intent on committing acts of violence. It's not going to be tolerated, and if you do persist, you're going to face law enforcement.
And when you're talking about those outstanding warrants, you're talking drug charges, gun violations, assault. So these are certainly not Boy Scouts, in the city.
No, we focused on serious charges. There's lots of warrants out there for small traffic-related things. We weren't concerned with that. We were concerned on really the individuals we knew were prone to violence and sort of cross-referenced that with our list of warrants and focused on those warrants that were for more substantial charges.
So you talked a little bit about an uptick in the summer, which is pretty typical, I would say, if you look at any cities across the country, for gang activity. But when you're talking about gang activity in Springfield, are these neighborhood gangs? Are they connected to any larger organizations?
Not usually. They're loosely organized street gangs, so to speak. They're not really hierarchical or organized enough to have leadership necessarily, but they do associate very tightly, and very often their associations and that membership leads them to conflict with other similar street gangs. And we had some very specific knowledge, and I'm not going to use specific names of these organizations because I don't want to lionize or give them the infamy they seek. But we were very much aware of potential conflict between two different groups, and we wanted to get in front of that and really make a very strong statement that this kind of violence isn't going to be tolerated. And really, with the point being that folks in these neighborhoods in Springfield and Chicopee and Holyoke, all across this county and this region, deserve to have a safe and happy and healthy summer. And I don't think there's anybody in these neighborhoods, 99% of which are good, law-abiding, hardworking people, want to hear gunshots at night while they're out barbecuing or sitting around and enjoying the summer. And they don't want their kids walking by the drug dealer on the corner. So again, we wanted to make a very strong statement leading into the summer that this kind of behavior is not going to be tolerated.
But the people in the neighborhoods you obviously depend on for information. How are you able to work with people who, rightly so, would be afraid to say, hey, I know what's going on at my neighbor's house? Because at some point, people are going to know, who made the call. That's got to be a huge challenge locally, and I'm assuming especially with the local departments, Springfield, Chicopee, and Holyoke. How are they able, to kind of cultivate those relationships with people so that, information can be shared?
Yeah, it's a dilemma for folks in these neighborhoods. And we deal with it each and every day in our court system. Victims and witnesses who were either a witness to a crime or were a victim of a crime want to see criminal justice play out, but they also know there's repercussions when they go back to their neighborhoods and to their homes, which is just an awful concept. But what we do as an office is we try to be as open as possible. We try to be in our community, building trust, building relationships with members of those communities. Springfield Police Department, I think, has done an admirable job over the years with the C3 policing program, where police officers, along with Massachusetts state troopers, are in neighborhoods each and every day, not for the purpose of making arrests necessarily, but are there to build those relationships with people, build trust, and be visible and accessible. So it's a challenge. I think it's a challenge for every jurisdiction, but I think we're doing it pretty well, and we continue to try to build those relationships, which are critical. And
is it largely centered on the drug trade? Is that typically what is driving the activity and violence?
To a large degree, yeah. Some of the violence is based on turf or territory. A lot of times it's over slights or disrespect that goes back and forth and becomes sort of infinite. But a lot of it does surround drug territory and ways in which these folks are making money.
Okay, and one thing that you had mentioned is that the federal, state, and local all working together, which, if you look back historically across the country, sometimes can be challenging, as we've seen, other issues through the years. How important is it for your office to be coordinating that and coordinating with the U.S. Attorney's Office as well in order to affect, change and to keep people safe?
It was one of my really stated objectives upon coming into office that we need the resources, we need to collaborate because we have a lot of challenges here. So I really sought to bring folks together, and one thing that I did was call this High Impact Player Strike Force meeting every 6 weeks, which has now gone on for over 4 years at the U.S. Attorney's Office, and it brings together all law enforcement having anything to do with the city of Springfield and beyond. So it's very important, I think, for the taxpayer, for the citizen, that federal, state, and local law enforcement in particular are working together and working for that shared goal, and this was a very good example of that.